Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Toon review for tonight's show. Basically, we are having another one of these discussion shows where we literally pluck a subject out of the air and discuss it. Of course, we will have the Manchester City preview tomorrow night, TTR on Friday, and of course, we have the Matchday Live with Billy on it's Saturday lunchtime, isn't it, this week? Godforsaken kickoff time. By the way, just a quick one. TTR email address has changed. It is now in the description. The new one is there. Geordie J. Gaiman, yeah, I know you've asked this where the rebuke came from. There's plenty in the media regarding it, so we'll go through it tonight again. Alex has pulled a report from The Athletic as well. So it's out there. Anyway, like I said, the email address has changed. It's now contact.thetoonreview@gmail.com. That is a main email address now that you can contact us on. If you need anything from us, it is in the description. So that is now the email address to contact the Toon Review. Of course, as usual, if you do enjoy the show tonight, give it the thumbs up. And of course, please do subscribe if you're new to the channel and you like what you see. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live show. And of course, you can support the channel in two ways as per usual. First is by joining the membership. That's just join button underneath me and Alex. And of course, super chats are available, which is the $ at the bottom of the live chat. And that will guarantee your comment to be read out on the show. Bossman says, I'm an Arsenal fan and I came here to contribute to Newcastle beating Man City next week, God willing.
Well, I mean, you could have beaten them yourself, to be fair, but...
Well, 10 men, very difficult. They were beating them. The referee ruined it for me, but there you go. Well, NUFC Ollie says, looking slim, Paul. Well, thank you very much. I do try. Don't forget, ladies and gents, the voting for... What are you smirking at? Don't forget, the voting for the Football Content Awards 2024 is ongoing. That is pinned right at the top of the description. Keep voting for us, guys. Just keep going. Keep voting for the Toon Review. Hopefully, we can get something this year. We'll be there. We'll be in our sort of suited and booted. And hopefully Alex won't abandon me in the middle of London this time. Yeah, it is there. Please do vote for the Toon Review. And hopefully, you never know, we might come away with something this year. It'd be good to get a place. Anyway, good evening, Alex.
Good evening. How are we doing?
Now, a lot of news bouncing around. Of course, Newcastle United today did an earlier show regarding the PIF coming out and making sure that they put these rumours about Liverpool to bed. It was simply somebody making 2 and 2 and getting 5 with obviously John Henry, part of the Gulf, trying to get a deal done. People were mentioning £1 billion for Liverpool. It's actually the £1 billion that they're talking about was to invest into PGA golf, as they're trying to bring Live Golf and PGA closer together. It was completely wrong, but I like the way PIF responded. But we'll come on to that as well. Of course, we are linked with a Georgian Wonderkid as well, Alex. So we've got some details on him as well, which is he looks a player, by the way.
Yeah, he looks okay. I think it's more than just linked as well. I think there's pretty nailed on reports that we're trying to sort out a work permit and things like that. So it's unless it's obviously nonsense, but it seems pretty done. So we'll see.
Yep, it looks like he's on his way in. What did you make of the news about Kieran Trippier, Alex? Because I mean, look. Apparently Trippier he still wants to leave, but it's nothing to do with Newcastle United Football Club. He wants to go abroad. Apparently, what the reports are saying is due to his family issues, he wants to finish his career abroad rather than here. So it's a one to keep an eye on. But look, as far as I'm concerned, I want to keep Kieran Trippier. Certainly with the way this season's going, I think we very much need him. Trevor McDonald, who's been a member for 3 months. Thank you for your support, Trevor. Good evening, Paul and Alex. Really glad I found this channel. Can I have a big belated happy birthday to my wife who turned 21 again recently? Mrs. McDonald, happy 21st. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Whenever I know you said belated, so I hope you had a great day, and happy birthday from all of us at the Toon Review. Charlie, I know I've got your email. I will respond to it. Don't worry. Something's obviously gone missing somewhere, so I will reply to you shortly. Don't worry. Stephen Mitchell says, desperate to leave. No way they would write that about a Man United or Liverpool player. More negative media spin. Yeah, I mean, look, again, I'm only sort of doing them news shows just to, feed everything back for you guys. I scroll through them on a morning and I look for interesting stories to talk about on a news show. And that's what this channel's all about. I'm not saying that story's true or false, to be honest. I don't know. We none of us know. But you can understand it if Trips does want to sort of move abroad. I was thinking maybe the MLS might be a good move for him at his stage of his career. But listen, Trippier still wants to play at the highest level. And while he's still a Newcastle United player, we want him around. Because right now, the way we are, Alex, we need his experience, we need his guidance, and his ability as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think ultimately, you've got 8 months, Kieran. You stayed with us in the summer. It's 8 months. Eight months till May. Just get on with it. As far as I'm concerned, if the time for maybe doing that was in the summer.
Yeah,
I appreciate there was the international tournament, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because anybody with a job out of the limelight, if your family life breaks down, which again, I'm not even sure if this has been officially confirmed. I think everybody kind of knows though. Like if things are going on behind the scenes, some people do move jobs.
Yeah, it was the media reports were all the ones I saw anyway. We're talking about his personal reasons. It's got nothing to do.
So we're not going to go into detail
football.
with that
Exactly. So I didn't.
However,
none of our business. So
he is under contract. It's a bit different in this case. It's a different kind of job. It's it's not like you're working down the local shop. And we could really do with him. He joined for the project and to be part of this generation that was going to move us up into the next phase of our journey.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like he's finished that chapter. I think he's meant to be the mentor for the young fullbacks and be a leader in the dressing room and a leader on the pitch. And I think he's still got a lot to offer as well. And it's only 8 months. 8 months till May, and then he can go on holiday and go pick a new club somewhere. He's still good enough to go and play in Serie A and Spain for another 2 or 3 years, I think, personally.
Yeah.
As long as he keeps his fitness up, I don't see any reason why he can't do that. So my urge would be please stay for another 8 months because we really need you. So
yeah, it's a good point. And of course, tonight Newcastle United are in the draw for the next round of the Carabao Cup.
All number 16 in the freezer.
Listen, it's going to be one of the Man City away.
It's going to be the away game, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is, because they'll make sure somehow, as we've seen, that the cartel make sure they're at home and have good draws, so they don't have to travel and things like that. So yeah. Bossman says, sorry, but Eddie Howe ain't the right man for Newcastle going forward. Reckon you've regressed from a couple of years ago. Sean says, hopefully beat City on Saturday, then have a good cup run and get the morale going. I mean, look, the clear the air talks have taken place, apparently, Alex, and everything's sorted. But I said in the video I did earlier on today that yes, everything, if these media reports are true that Mitchell and Howe have sat down and thrashed things out or had a conversation, it's now important that Eddie Howe turns to the players and sorts that side of it out, because we said the other day that if one or two players are off form, that fine, you can understand that. When so many are not playing too well, that's a bit more of a worry. But hopefully now everyone is on the same page and we can see maybe a difference on Saturday. Hopefully Eddie will get the lads in, they'll regroup and ready to go. You're not confident though, are you?
There's a lot wrong.
Absolutely.
I've blocked a few people on Twitter today who are absolute imbeciles with this as well. I'm getting fed up with people just being silly about this. There is a lot wrong, a hell of a lot wrong with well with everything, with motivation, fitness, energy, pressing. And then you talk about the gap, the space in between the lines, the holes in midfield, the lack of defensive transitions, the poor defensive corners, the poor recovery runs, the poor attacking corners, the poor attacking set pieces. I mean, I'm running out of breath. I'm trying to do this all in one breath. That's how much is wrong. Livramento's not working right now. Lewis Hall's struggling. And Bruno's not playing as well. Isak's not getting involved in the game. Gordon's not Gordoning. Yeah, he's not going to be able to fix all of that in a week. There is so much fundamentally wrong.
But one thing we must look to the players, Alex. We must see a response from the players. I think that's important, regardless of who Eddie Howe picks on Saturday. We'll talk about this more, obviously, in the preview tomorrow night. But when those players go onto that pitch, we have to see a difference in them as well. It's not, yes, Eddie's, whatever we say, picked the wrong side or had to make changes, etc., etc. But the players need to stand up and be counted as well.
Yeah, I've just changed my mic. Sorry for coughing into that. Then I had it on my laptop speakers. Yes, we can definitely paper over the cracks and improve via a bit more intensity, fight and drive, a bit more common sense, slightly better decision making, and just a bit more umph and intensity in that game. Definitely will go a long way, a long, long way. However, some of the defensive issues need to be fixed as well. There's loads wrong with it. And can I go back to the Arsenal fans' comment, wherever it was? It was a while back now, about how Eddie Howe's not the right man for the job.
Yeah.
I mean, you may be right. However, I would like to say that Arteta at this point in his, he got 3 8th place finishes under Arsenal.
He was under a lot of pressure.
He was under huge amounts of pressure.
Him out. Yeah,
he was paying high wages to players. There was discontent in the dressing room. I remember, because I lived abroad for a few years, the first time I came back, I was at the home fixture, the final game against the season against Arsenal when we beat you 2-1 at St James's Park. That was my first game back in about 4 years. And that was the one that made it onto the Arsenal Amazon documentary. And it wasn't massively good for everybody. Was going, trust the process, Arteta, trust the process. And everybody was crying about it. It was very touch and go whether that was going to work. Obviously, it has worked. And you've taken that next step into a title challenging team now consistently. I would argue, have had better finishes under Eddie Howe compared to your original time under Arteta when he started. We got a 4th place finish. And where did we finish last season? 7th? Mm-hmm. Was it 7th?
7th,
it might have been 7th. So in theory, it might have been 8th. Either way, I think we've kind of bettered what Arteta was doing with arguably championship level players. We've probably got 10 or 15 lower end Premier League players and championship level players. We've cleared some of them out. We've improved some of them. So there is an argument to be made that Howe has done considerably better in that short amount of time in comparison with what Arteta had to deal with.
I think, to be honest though, Alex, what he's saying there, like regressed. If you ask a lot of Newcastle fans, they would probably agree with that comment, because the reason I'm saying that is the intensity side of it. The intensity is our identity kind of thing.
I agree completely.
It's dwindled away.
However, but you can't necessarily call it aggression when I think we fast track so quickly. I think you've got to remember that in that season, flip side. Yeah, in that season we got 4th.
Yeah,
we had very few injuries. It all went swimmingly. There was intensity. There was a good feel. Everything went right. And the following season, everything went wrong. It was completely flip-floppy. And he just said there, Arteta won the FA Cup.
He's won an FA Cup.
To be fair, mate, we got to a Carabao Cup final. So one result, I'm not gonna reassess an entire 3-year period based on one result. Anything can happen in 90 minutes of football. I appreciate the measure is trophies. I get that.
I agree with you about Arteta, Alex, because we had a couple of Arsenal fans saying that they weren't happy, they weren't seemingly making any progress. But given the time, he's now obviously doing a hell of a job at Arsenal, and credit to him, because he's worked hard. He's sort of, although I'm not a particularly big fan of Arteta, I think you've got to look what he's done and think he was under the cosh, and he just battled through that period of time and said, no, I'm working on a project here, and he's been given the time to do it, and it's coming to fruition now. So and I think when you look at Eddie Howe as well, and the situation Eddie's in now, we'll take a look at the training situation, because I think something has obviously changed on the training ground, or I believe it has, especially with James Bunce coming in. I think this guy's had a sort of a bigger say than maybe Eddie first thought he was going to have, because he came in as sort of a, I mean, what was he, a sports scientist or something like that, or a sports injury specialist, something?
Performance analyst.
So I think he's maybe done or doing a bit more than Eddie first thought that might happen. Look, I don't know for definite if that's the case, but I from our performances, I generally think that something has maybe changed.
Well, the one thing that I found, and I don't know if you found this strange and anybody in chat, but I found this a little bit weird, how, and I wasn't expecting it. It was a game a few weeks ago, and the camera panned to Paul Mitchell and Darren Eales, and Bunce was sat with them in the crowd.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but something just tweaked in my brain. And I was a bit confused, because I was expecting Bunce to be down with Eddie Howe. I don't know if I'm missing something, but I thought he was meant to be a bit more involved in that. I guess not. I find it weird that he's involved day to day and he's helping with training and presumably with the physios and rehab, prehab, training loads, all of that. But he's not on the front lines. He's up at. I found that a little bit odd. Maybe there's nothing in it, but I mean, that was just my first thought before we even go deeper into what Bunce does. But I found that a bit strange, because he's obviously not part of that little, Graham Jones, Jason Tyndall. He's not in that little group.
Yeah, the sort of clutch of the coaching staff, isn't it? And then you would think if he's on the training pitch, then why isn't he down on the bench with Eddie Howe rather than sitting? You can understand that, yeah. Chris says, Alex, why do you keep defending a manager who since last April has had terrible football? We were bad since Man United beat us last season. Near the end, we looked like we are fighting relegation on the pitch.
Am I defending him? I think I was just comparing him to Arteta. I think that was all I was doing. There's a lot of issues. We
have been critical of Eddie. Absolutely, we have. Because, listen, you look back the last two games, he's had to change it at halftime to correct his mistakes. Now, on the flip side of that, well done. He's realised and he's made changes at halftime, which he's never done before. So you got to give him credit for that. But in the end of the day, we all know that he picked the wrong sides to start with, and that's been a.
Well, last year we gave him the benefit of the doubt because of the enormous amount of injuries. We were playing like Lewis Miley, who, despite being technically gifted, there were issues in his game positionally, and there were losing Tonali to a ban. There were loads of things that went wrong. Loads. Botman wasn't good and then not available. So I think we were all kind of happy to go, all right, let's give him he gets a pass. And we were expecting, we were hoping we were going to come out the gates really well this season, performance-wise, and that's not happened. So now I feel like that's fair. And Chris, by the way, your surname is awfully similar to an old ginger as well, but never mind. But I do agree with you. Yeah, Eddie Howe, the performances have not been good for most of this calendar year. I think it's fair to say. Yeah. And then it's bled into this season, and I was hoping we were going to close the door on that chapter and sort it out. It's not really happened. So
true. Helen says, Paul, do you think FFP rules are going to change? I don't get how we are not in debt like Man United and others, and they spend more than us, but nothing's said things need to change. We all know that PSR needs to, or FFP, it needs completely, if they're going to keep it around, then it needs revamping massively. Don One says, I've said it before, it's the first year we've had a performance director. We are playing shit. Is this a coincidence? Yeah, performance director is his official title, isn't it? VMV says, you don't need a performance analyst to see that a few of our players are not giving 100%, to be honest. Gordon
I'm
says,
not sure it's a performance. I'm not sure he means in that way. It's not a...
No, I think it's attitude, Alex. I don't know why. I just think something's wrong. There's too many players. Like I said at the start, if one or two weren't playing very well, I could understand that. You always get that within a football side. But there's so many not playing very well. That kind of indicates something else, doesn't it? You said this thing's wrong, and listen, we're only going off what we see on the pitch. We're not privy to what goes on behind the scenes. But when you see them like this on the football pitch in intense games like the Premier League. And, you know, it does make you worry a little bit, but hopefully maybe they're putting things, they've had a week now to prepare for Man City, and hopefully things are starting to get ironed out.
It could be anything. It could be, I'm not going to breathe. Like, we've had far too many journalists breathing life into far too, I think, erratic panic button stories. And that's just my personal opinion of them, that I think weren't overly true. I think it was embellishing the truth for clicks. I don't want to breathe life into anymore. And yeah, sorry, Chris, if it's nothing to do with you, then yeah, my bad.
Don't worry about me.
but yeah, no, I don't really want to breathe life into that. Is there potentially something wrong with certain attitudes? I don't know. I don't want to breathe life into that. I'd like to think no. I'd like to think there's, but then I don't really know what else it could be. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think Gordon's happy because of the whole Liverpool thing. He's come off a very difficult summer for the young man. You've got to understand that this kid's life is football. When you watch that Gary Neville interview, he talks about his reading, his routine, his pre-match meal, his post-match meal. This kid lives and breathes this. He wants to be the best. So he's had a tough summer mentally, regardless of whether you think he gets the salary to be able to deal with it. He's a human. That doesn't mean he can process that properly. He's clearly trying. He wanted to make a difference for England. He didn't get that opportunity. We lost the final. And then he's come back. He's been moved onto the right-hand side. There was speculation that they might get rid of him to Liverpool. What do you expect?
I think we should just blame. I think we should blame the form of Gordon very much at the feet of Gareth Southgate. Just
easy
for the hell of it.
I just don't feel like it's. I don't feel like it's fair to blame Anthony Gordon right now. I feel like if this continues for another couple of months, then yeah, we could say, look, grow up, pull your socks up, get on with it. But this early on, I get it. Like,
well, Rocky's saying there, I understand that people are upset from the poor transfer window, and are upset from individual performances at the start of the season. Something is on Gordon's shoulders that we don't know.
It's just all of the above we just said, potentially.
Yeah, it could be something very simple. It could, listen, there has been rumours kicking around the last couple of days that they are wanting to sit down with Anthony Gordon and thrash out a new contract. I've also heard that he wants to sign. Eddie Howe's instructions to Mitchell are that he wants to keep Dan Burn, Sean Longstaff, etc. But listen, we spoke about that last week, and to do with PSR, they don't want to let these players leave on a free transfer. I think that's why they've got to get them under contract, to be honest, more than playing wise. But
regardless of whether other people think that they should have a contract, we've got to protect the finances of the club and the squad health as a whole. That's
just the way it is these days with PSR.
We just can't let too many bodies go, especially not for free, because we'll just be in the same situation again. We need the fastest road to giving us more PSR allowance as quickly as possible. And that is essentially being clever with new contracts, which hasn't been perfect. Like, I think the Miggy contract was maybe a bit generous, at least. Yeah. But then sometimes, like, we can't let Sean go on a free. We absolutely can't. I know people don't think Sean's good enough to be a starter at the top level, and I completely agree with you. But we also can't let him go on a free. So,
absolutely. Peter Garthwaite, thank you for your super chat. I think that the likes of Bruno, etc., did not expect to be playing alongside the likes of Longstaff after numerous seasons. When we qualify on the when we quality on the bench. I mean, look, let's get back to just a brief touch on the training, Alex, because obviously I want to talk about the Georgian player as well.
Yes.
But, I mean, do you genuinely think that Bunce, he's gone in there and has made changes on the training pitch? Maybe, like a lot of people said, that the training was, we've seen videos of how intense Eddie is with the training. Was that a reason, maybe, that Bunce came in and thought, hang on, so many injuries last season, look how intense the training is? Has he maybe advised Eddie that he needs to back off a little bit?
So my first point on that would be there are so many injuries from last year that were not down to intensity. Harvey Barnes had barely joined us and got a very weird, unique foot fracture that was unseen. Murphy was a shoulder dislocation. Pope was a shoulder dislocation. Botman was just landing funny, which is not intent. That was just landing strangely. Tonali got banned. So that's 5 that are not intensity-related injuries. Lascelles, just what happened? I can't remember. I remember the aftermath. How did that happen? Was it in a tackle?
No, did he not just? Was that not just he got his studs caught
Studs in the ground a bit funny.
I
think it was studs in the turf. So you could argue that that's nothing to do with intensity. That's just really unlucky. It was at the start of the game. He gets rotated quite heavily anyway. He doesn't play loads. So you could argue that 6 last season were not down to intensity. Am I missing any others? Potentially.
No, but JJ Spence makes a good point there, Alex. We were hardly injured in Howe's first season and more intense. The injuries were freak. Bring back the intensity.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Targer got injured in like minute 1 of a cup game. That's not down to Howe. That's just, you don't get injured via intensity and training in minute 1 of a match. There's just so much for me that's nothing to do with training intensity. There's so many injuries that are different reasons. But that's just point 1. I don't think that's related. So has Bunce come in and changed the training intensity or asked for that to be changed? I can't. I think Bunce would have observed everything we've just talked about injury-wise. He's not an idiot, and he would probably assess it accordingly. I can't see that. I think personally, his job is more about is the rehab process correct, long enough? Are the physios advising well? Do we need more physios? What about the prehab stuff with the strength and conditioning coaches? What are we doing in injury prevention? What about turf, floor, footwear, recovery? I think he's going to look at all of that aspect of it. It's not just, is he going to come in to scrutinize the intensity of the training? I think that's a primitive way of looking at it. I think he's going to get the magnifying glass on anything that can help, not just necessarily the intensity, really.
Yeah. Laura says, Mitchell has talked a big game. I, as a fan, am now expecting a big January. Anthony says, it's a big call for Gordon. Does Eddie persist with him on the right wing? He's never performed well when starting there. Do we try Barnes on the right wing to start and try and see Gordon right? Look, he may be doing different things in training, though, Alex. That's the thing. I mean, we know how intense Eddie is with his job, and we know how, with his. I mean, somebody mentioned the other week that maybe we're not preparing properly for a certain opposition. I'm not really agreeing with that, because I think the way Eddie Howe is, he's very, very astute with that.
I agree with you. He will weigh up all of those options, and he's just choosing a different one.
But he's making mistakes when whatever sort of revision he's doing about the opposition, he's making the wrong call, or he has done lately with the team selection. I mean, we've all seen that. Yeah.
I mean, for a man that gets in at 6 o'clock in the morning to go in to do his own gym training before anybody's even in, and then he goes into his office that has 15 tactics boards in it, he's not going to sit there and overlook a potential tactical change or a formation switch or a, what if I put him there instead of there? And he's not going to overlook these things. He's clearly reviewing all of these possibilities, and he's just choosing a certain path that a lot of us don't agree with. He's not stupid, and I really want to push that out there, because there's a lot of people just saying that he's too stubborn or he's not considering other options. I promise you he is. He's considering all options. They all are, all the coaching team.
But he's
just choosing certain things.
Choosing wrong, and
he admitted this in his interview. He put Willock into that game, and he went, probably shouldn't have done that. I mean, that's not what he said. Paraphrasing, but he basically said, probably shouldn't have picked Willock.
Yeah,
fine, my mistake. It probably should have been Tonali, but it's a mistake. So,
Foxy says, isn't Bunce's job to have regular medical examinations with the players in the training sessions, monitor their movement, their sleep, and what they eat, etc.?
Well, that's what a performance analyst is. He's the big boss man, isn't he? So
yeah, but he'll also have, obviously he's the big boss man of that side of things, but he'll have a number of staff below him who will monitor all sorts of things.
Well, you'd think that there should be. I hope there is. If you remember when Bruno first signed for us, there was an article from one of his coaches. It was like a personal coach, and Bruno had a sleep ring on that monitored sleep quality and different things. And the article went into it. I think it was a translated article from Portuguese, and it went into some detail about sleep regimens versus training, and it was crazy on point. And I don't think we were really into that at that time as a club, which we absolutely should have been. It was shambolic how little we were doing in that regard. So I think hopefully we've caught up in that instance, because we've put in the hydrotherapy pool, we've put in the recovery bits and the new training ground, and performance analysts go with it. You need people to tell you, because footballers aren't professional mentally at what they need to do for their bodies, their sleep, their daily routines. They do need to be taught these things. Like if Granny and Grandad used to give them a hot dog and a Bovril pre-match, it doesn't mean that's the best thing pre-match. That's why you've got performance analysts in to teach them the best way to live to be a professional footballer, basically.
Well, when I finished playing ice hockey, I took a coaching job with the under-12s. And this lad used to come in the dressing room before a game with a big sod-off meat pie.
Yeah.
And
it's crazy.
And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Just thinking, if you're doing that at a younger age, that doesn't bode well. Pre-match meal, sit in the dressing room before he puts his gear on, is eating a meat pie at 11-year-old. That was clamped out totally. Laura says 5 games into the season, and that previous window is highlighting every single issue at the club. Never had such a negative feel to the club since doom and gloom of Ashley. It's bizarre. I'm not quite at that. I'm not anywhere near at that stage at the minute, to be fair. I think there's a lot of positives, especially the news today. I mean, Alex, let's talk about that now before we go on to the Georgian lad, because I think it's very important.
Can I mention one more thing before we move off training?
Yeah.
I think Jason Tindall deserves more airtime. Well, lots of journalists talking about this topic specifically. Nobody's going in on Jason Tindall. And again, Jason Tindall's fantastic. We love him. However, there's been set pieces have been pretty poor for quite a long time. And he's the guy responsible for set pieces, as far as I'm aware, unless that's changed. If it's changed, then I apologize. But I think it's been shambolic, whether it's deep crosses from set
everybody
pieces.
Can see that.
I mean, some of the short corner routines look quite creative. They don't tend to work. We've got a mixture of Joe Lintons and Dan Burns in there with quick movers. We've got to do more with it. Look at what Arsenal are getting out of set pieces. I like Coffee's just said it. Absolutely. We've got to be better at set pieces. Jason Tindall has to take some responsibility for the poor set pieces, because ultimately it's Eddie Howe that has to come out and do the interviews. But obviously it seems like
they are terrible. They are absolutely tragic. And you're right. That does need called out.
And it's concerning that, Eddie Howe was a centre-half. I'm just concerned about so many things. The fact that he's a centre-half, was a centre-half in his playing career. There's just so many things about it. The defensive corners. I was just so appalled at our defensive corners. Every time a ball came into the box, I thought we were going to concede. We were that bad. Yeah.
Scotty makes a couple of points about Anthony Gordon. Maybe he should be at one of these fan meetings to see how well thought of he is. I think he knows. The fans are constantly chanting the Anthony Gordon song. And look, Anthony Gordon can do himself a big favour by turning up on Saturday and putting in a performance and scoring a goal similar to the one he did against City last season. And just, I think once he hits the back of the net, I think Anthony Gordon will thrive.
He's already scored, doesn't he? He scored in the
corner.
But
just when he's in this situation, Alex, just with a little bit of pressure on him and a little bit of questions being asked about him,
he needs to score in a home fixture. He needs to beat a couple of players. I tell you what, that mazy run he did where he beat 3 and hit the post, if that had gone in, his confidence would have been fine.
Yeah.
But
Connor, I saw that. Arsenal starting a 16-year-old goalkeeper tonight in the Carabao Cup. Peter Garthwaite, thank you for your another super chat. Eddie Howe does seem to know his best 11, which is worrying. I think he meant to say doesn't. Yes, I think we spoke about that before. But let's talk about the PIF response, Alex, because a lot of people sort of wondering what it's all about. And this, like I said earlier today, this came from a meeting between John Henry and PIF in New York regarding golf. PIF were interested in investing £1 billion into the PGA Tour to try and bring the two, Live Golf and PGA Tour to, coming together a little bit better. That's what it was all about. And then suddenly reports were all over the place that PIF were going to invest £1 billion into Liverpool, etc. It's a load of crap. But Alex, you've I read it from the report in the Chronicle earlier today, but you've seen a one in the Athletic, which you're going to read parts of, yeah?
No. I've got one from. I was just reading Mark Douglas from the iPaper. About
Mark Douglas.
It wasn't about that meeting from today. It was more. It was about the chairman coming over to have the meeting with Eddie and Mitchell a couple of weeks ago. So it was that one specifically. This is the one where a lot of Civil War articles were written about the situation, which, personal opinion, massively over the top. There was an enormous amount made of Eddie not speaking to Paul Mitchell on a daily basis when he was rather busy. It didn't help that Becky came out, and they baited that question. It didn't help that Becky came out and said that she speaks
Becky was put in a difficult situation there because
she was absolutely
nothing to do with her. What goes on between Eddie Howe and Mitchell and Becky?
Yeah, but they've baited her massively. For people who don't know, there was a journalist who asked how often Becky speaks to Paul Mitchell, and she went, every other day or nearly every day. So obviously, all the journalists went, and started writing about that.
Terrible.
So I just don't think there was any need for Eddie to communicate with Paul Mitchell that consistently. Why? What is the point when?
Well, maybe during the transfer window, but certainly not afterwards. I'm sure they'll talk again in the build-up.
In the last sort of 10, 14, 20 odd days, why? Why is why? What would have helped? Unless there's an odd day, like it really makes no difference. But obviously, they had that meeting where the chairman came over and it was a clear the air kind of thing. We've had a clear the air thing since then, and it's positive apparently. And again, I don't think it was too much of an issue. I think it was a strange summer where Mitchell came in to try and not upset the apple cart, and by being too much that way, ended up upsetting the apple cart. He probably just should have come in like a bull in a china shop, to be fair, and just done what he wanted. But he didn't. He came in and he respected the original plans. Didn't quite work, and it is what it is. But they are reporting that the PIF have got the same ambition. They've reflected that to Paul Mitchell, saying that they want to be the best, they want to be number one, and that there is a target for Eddie Howe this season to finish inside the European places specifically. I think the quote is from Mark Douglas. He's super ambitious and wants us to perform at the number one level. He's a very intelligent owner. I think he can see the club growing, but he's smart enough to know it's moved very quickly over a short period of time. He knows infrastructure is important. He knows people are important, and he knows a higher overarching framework and strategy is crucial to get where we want to go. So, I mean, I agree with all of that. You need the structure. You can't be a top club with, well, I mean, this is going to really annoy a lot of people, but you can't be a top club with just Amanda pulling all of the strings. As much as we liked her, she was the first to admit where she was lacking. She hired in consultants and things to assist. She's a lovely lady, did fantastic for us. But if we want to reach the pinnacle of football, obviously, this is what the chairman said, we need the right structure. But it seems like everything's kind of been cleared, and it needs to be cleared going into January. So
apparently, it was Matty from the Magpie channel that asked that question to Becky.
Was it Matty? Cheeky Matty, very cheeky.
Yeah, there's been some very strange things from Newcastle YouTubers lately. By the way, did you see fantastic news for, just on a side note, Wimbledon? There was some, they did a before and after of the work they've already started on their pitch, by the way. And
it is good,
yeah, they've made fantastic progress. And I have to say again, Wimbledon, of course, are a fan-owned club. And it was fantastic what them fans have turned around and done. Yes, Newcastle's huge donation helped as well. But they've raised over something like 60 grand, 55.
It's over £100,000 now.
Oh, it's over 100 now.
It is, yeah.
There you go. I mean, look, I know that there's been a lot of input from a lot of football fans from around the UK. And, you know, a certain Newcastle YouTuber didn't do us any favours with the video that was done. But look, as far as I'm concerned, mistakes are made. And, you know, Wimbledon, as people know, I have a very soft spot for, and I'm just glad that they've managed to get the work started so quickly. I think the game against Accrington has been called off against the weekend. So they're going to be very fit for the game at St. James's on Tuesday, because they'll have had a good while to prepare for the game.
We've had rest as well, so it should be the same.
Well, yeah, but we play Man City on Saturday, Alex.
Yeah, but if our reserves can't beat a League Two opposition,
well, yeah, you'd have to
You
ask
need
serious
selling.
questions. Yeah, I think you would have
it's
to.
League Two opposition. There's an argument to be made that there is not an overly big difference between the quality of National League teams and League Two teams. So if we can't bridge we're talking about Gateshead. We're talking about that kind of standard.
Well, I think they're a bit better than Gateshead. They've had a good start the season, actually, Wimbledon, to be fair.
But in terms of general quality between those leagues, there's not an overly big difference. That's when teams start going from semi-professional to professional. You get mostly professional in the National League. We can't be losing to a League Two side. We absolutely cannot. It's unacceptable.
I mean, look, it's absolutely tragic what has happened to that ground because of the weather. The weather was. I mean, look, we all know the problems Wimbledon have had with MK Dons, etc. And then
McDonald's.
Sorry,
McDonald's. We're not gracing them with a proper name.
Yes, indeed. And now the fact that they've got back to Plough Lane as well. I mean, it's not called Plough Lane now. It's obviously they've got a sponsor for the stadium, but they are on the right track again, and it's just fantastic. And the fact that it's fan owned as well.
I don't know if you know, but they're going to get 45% gate receipts.
Yes,
at St James's Park because it's just how it works. So that's good for them.
Yeah, I'm ecstatic for them. And listen, I hope
I won't be if they beat us.
No, I hope we hammer them on Tuesday night next week. Absolutely. But listen, we'll see what happens. But let's turn our attention to Connor's sent in a super chat saying you've cursed it now, Alex. Cambridge 2022.
Oh, no, I'm not saying we will. I'm saying we should.
We're in a very different place back then.
I'm saying we should. Oh, yeah, Cambridge. That was, what was that, like 30-odd crosses and nothing, just nothing?
Yeah, well, I think we played Jacob Murphy up front that day, and it just did not work.
Wasn't it Trippier's first game?
Yeah. He just signed and wasn't expected to play, but he did. And oh, dear. Oh,
I bet he was thinking at the end of that, God, what have I joined?
Well, yeah. Listen, credit to Cambridge. They did a job. It's what the magic of the cup's all about. But let's turn our attention to this Georgian 16-year-old, Alex. This kid is special. And by all accounts, like you said earlier on in the show, this is practically done. And we're getting himself one hell of a player.
Possibly. There are a couple of things about that. I'm just bringing up things. Possibly. I've seen some stuff. Personally, I didn't know this kid before yesterday when everything started popping
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
I would quite gladly like to throw Graham Bailey under the bus as well, who decided to put an exclusive out at like 2, 3 o'clock this afternoon when everybody's been talking about this since yesterday. So I'm sorry, Graham. Stop it. Stop claiming exclusives when things were done 24 hours before. That is, you're a professional journalist.
By the way, it says 17 on there. There's a lot of news reports say 16, and now it says 17 on there. Does it really matter?
Well, I mean, it'll tell you his birthday, August the 30th, 2007. So
he's 17.
So yeah, he was 17 last month. So that's probably why people haven't updated it yet. But yeah, Graham Bailey, stop claiming exclusives when things were reported literally the day before. That really irritates me. And yeah, Anthony Clark has completely got it right. I am about to ruin your chips.
Why?
Well, because I'm not as excited about this kid as you are. So obviously,
no. I've never heard of the kid. I'm going off what the reports have said today about him.
So they're saying special.
He's special talent, etc. Not me. I haven't heard of the kid.
Right. So for people who aren't in the loop, this is let's try and get this right. Vaktang Salia. I'm going to go with. We unfortunately don't have a pronunciation guide on Transfermarkt for Georgian, so it is what it is. So a lot of people are suggesting he is the new Kvichak Kvaratskhelia, who is the amazing winger, the Georgian winger for Napoli, who has been fantastic for some time. I think that's a bit of an overstatement, especially because this kid is a bit chunkier and plays up front. little bit different. He's right-footed. There's some similar things in his game because he has played a lot of left wing. There's a lot of forward. Yeah, we'll move on. We'll move on. So he does wear the number 7. So he does wear a proper shirt number, which we always like. SofaScore is suggesting he's good at anchor play and he's bad at ground duels. From what I've seen so far, that seems like a fair comment. I've been through and I've had a look at every single fixture he's played this season and had a look at the data of how he's done. And he does struggle with his ground duels, it would seem. But he's 17, so that's probably fair. I mean, he was 16 for the most part of this season. So just so we're aware as well, the club is Dynamo, if we're going to say it that way, Tbilisi. Any Georgians in the chat, please help me. So this is their club season at the moment. I don't know how the Georgian league works. I don't know if they have 20 teams and they split halfway, and if this is past halfway. Couldn't tell you. Maybe there's just 10 teams in it. They are struggling for goals. They are 21 goals scored, 28 conceded, and they haven't won in their last 5 fixtures. They're not doing swimmingly. Only 6 wins out of 25 matches is not fantastic. Considering this was a team that did qualify for the Conference League last year. So they qualified. There they are. We don't even have a squad list for them on FBref. Nothing here. They lost in the first qualifying round to Mornar, who are an Albanian team, and they themselves lost to Pax, which is a Hungarian team. So yeah, we're scraping the bottom of the European barrel there significantly. They lost as well to not a clue who they are. Corvinal Hunad. Okay, they lost to somebody. So they're not having a particularly strong season. However, this kid is the little gem. He's definitely going to get a reasonable fee. So the rumor is that we're looking at him to give him back to this team for the remainder of the season, and we're already working on a work permit for him to join us next year to try and get ahead of that and make sure there's no issues. Mm-hmm. So here's the data from this season. Go on, Paul.
No, I just seen Chris at Evermore saying Eddie to Man United. I seen that today when I was scrolling through the news, and I did have to have a chuckle. I just completely ignored it. But this is Mitchell's speciality, is it not, Alex? You know, look at bringing young players in who turn out to be rather good.
Well, in theory, we've already done that with Yanko Baminte, and we made a nice profit on him. So we need more of that. It's either. And again, people aren't going to like this, but we're about to become a very different machine in terms of how we recruit players. We don't necessarily need to recruit somebody that's going to play for the first team. And I know that sucks because we want to. That's the dream of scouting, isn't it? You go and scout a great player, you develop them, they play for the first team. It's like Goal the movie. Everybody loves it. It doesn't always work like that. So it's basically what Man City and a lot of big clubs do now. It's a well-oiled machine. You recruit well, you sell. It just works. If we can do more Yanko Baminte style investments, it doesn't have to, we don't have to sell them. It doesn't have to be for amazing money. It can just be for some. It needs to be the academy and the recruitment needs to pay for itself, basically, and it needs to make us money. It needs to either have a path to the first team or make us money, or both, preferably both.
Yeah.
So I personally believe this kid, he looks good, but that's it. He looks good. He looks good. He looks fine. It doesn't look anything wrong with him. If you go and watch his videos, he looks talented. But there's a lot wrong with his game at the moment. But he's really young, so it's impossible to put a pin on that.
Yeah.
He's losing a lot of ground duels. He looks like in a lot of the footage that you watch, he looks like he's getting a lot of time on the ball. The league's a lot slower. It's a much lower level. It's really difficult to kind of put a...
Well, Foxy says there, ex-Blackburn manager Steve Keane manages in Georgia. Oh, dear. If that's the standard of manager, God help them.
Well, I think Sanjay took a massive hit on Twitter today for saying something similar to what I've literally just said. I don't know if you want to put it up. So this is what Sanjay said today and got absolutely crucified for it. I mean, he apparently knows this kid anyway. I've never seen him before. I started doing research on him yesterday when his name appeared. So he said he's seen him through scouting work. He's a top 2 talent in Georgia, best as a left wing. I've only seen him mostly as a striker so far, so I need to go and watch a lot more of him in his left wing appearances. Top athletic qualities, I would agree with that. That's why he's broken into the first team at such a young age. Good attitude, great attitude. Needs to sharpen up technically. I mean, he looks technically sound, but it also looks like he gets a lot of time on the ball as well. It does say he's had interest from other big clubs, good but not top. So Sanjay's basically said that he thinks he's going to be good enough to play for a top league and a decent team, but maybe not be a Champions League quality player. That's basically what Sanjay stated today. A lot of people aren't very happy about that, but and then there's conflicting reports suggesting that Real Madrid and Bayern were looking at him. So people,
well, I don't think we're not going to sign Champions League quality players in every position. I mean, we're not at that stage yet, anyway.
Well, it's more about what he can develop into. Some people are thinking that he is going to be a top talent. Some people are thinking it doesn't look like it, but again, it's very hard to tell at this age. He's literally only just turned 17. It's super difficult to know.
Yep. Chris at Evermore says, we dropped the content award link in our earlier vid, guys. Best of luck. You guys massively deserve the recognition. Cheers, buddy. That's really kind. Thank you very much. Get yourselves subscribed to Chris's channel, Evermore NUFC as well. Very, very, very big friends with the channel. And they do a fantastic job as well. Very similar to us, wear the heart on the sleeves and say it how it is. So get yourself across there. And if you want honest opinions from 2 channels, then ourselves and Evermore are definitely the channels to look at. Mixers, I'll be honest, I don't care about flipping non-first team youngsters for £1 million profits.
But to be fair, Mick, we bought Minter for 8 and sold him for over 30. So that's really good.
Yeah.
That meant we could.
I would have still preferred to keep him, though. But
yeah,
that's water under the bridge now. LG says Asula was a panic buy to cover for Wilson, but Eddie doesn't trust him until he's had a year on the training ground.
Well, that's not true, because we were tracking
he'll play against Wimbledon. He'll definitely play against Wimbledon. Mitchell will be getting some unknown talent soon. The season we got Kabai was good scouting. Well, we got a lot of players from France.
But again, I think people are getting confused. We don't need to buy a player that has to play in the black and white. I know that sounds crazy. We need to buy players that might be able to play in black and white, but if they don't, we can sell them for profit. That's literally the whole point. It's taking gambles. That, like we thought Garen Qual was going to be that. If he doesn't work, well, we'll probably make a profit. What did we pay for him? 350,000?
Yeah.
I mean, the way he looks at the moment, we're probably not going to make a profit on that, but hopefully.
So just to wrap it up, Alex, we mentioned this earlier on in the show. Apparently, Eddie's asked Mitchell to sort out contracts with Dan Byrne, Sean Longstaff, and Fabian Schär.
Where's this come from?
It was Chronicle, I think. It was in the Chronicle. I may be wrong about that, but it was definitely one of the Northeast ones. But this has been banded around for a while because of PSR. And, Longstaff's was mentioned last week. We spoke about it because obviously we don't want these players leaving on a free transfer.
I mean, what's Byrne's contract length? I don't know.
I don't think it's long. I'm not sure on Dan Byrne, but obviously Sean's and Fabian's run out at the end of this season. So, they'll be looking to... I
mean, his contract runs out June 2025. So it's at the end of this season.
So this season, yeah, same as the others.
So are we ready for Dan Byrne to go at the end of this summer? Probably not.
Ooh, I think
again, he's not.
I think a few people might disagree with you in the chat, but I actually agree with you.
Yeah, but it's based on the fact that Botman's not available. Lascelles is probably gone. Dummett's gone. Everyone's gone. Like we can't turn over too many players all at once. I agree that he's not the long-term solution, but you can't it's not FIFA. You can't overhaul the entire squad. It's got to be done in segments. And he's a big leader, so
I can
would
understand.
You want a 1-year contract extension though?
I
wouldn't want to give him any more than a year.
Fabian would probably sign another year. But I think Fabian Schär would sign another year. I think having Fabian Schär for another year would anybody coming in or the players that are here at the moment, he can do a lot to help them. And I think Fabian would understand that he's on the back end of his career and he might not be guaranteed first team football every week, but he's still a hell of a player to have in the squad. Let's be fair.
I think we should delay this, surely. Surely we should delay this till January, because by January, we will know if we've purchased it, if we've been able to get a new centre-half through the door, and we will then know if Botman and Lascelles have come back and recovered properly. Because if Botman and Lascelles come back and are fantastic, maybe Lascelles comes back and he's useful, and Botman comes back and he's great, and we sign a centre-half in January, then fine. I'd be willing to let Dan Bird go. But if those things don't happen, then we can't leave ourselves short.
Yeah, I agree. It's listen, they face a challenge, don't they? Because they've got to get these contracts. First of all, they've got to get them right, given our previous dealings with contracts and where they've left us. I think they've got to get them right. They've got to make a decision of who stays and who goes. I mean, out of Dan Burn and Fabian Schär, as much as I love Dan Burn, he's a Geordie, etc., there's no comparison for me. I think
absolutely needs a contract.
100%. So we'll keep an eye on that. But there you go, guys. That is the end of tonight's show. Thank you very, very much for watching. Just to let everybody know that if you do want a recap of the show, it does go onto iTunes and Spotify, etc., and all good other podcast providers. Around about an hour after the show's finished. So it'll be available tomorrow and whenever you want to listen to it as a podcast in the car or walking the dog, wherever you do it. We are on iTunes and Spotify if you want to just go on there and, subscribe to us basically on there. There's no charge for that at all. So just to let you know that we are on there as well. We're across social media as well. Of course, we've got a fantastic Facebook page, Facebook group. So if you're on Facebook, have a look for the Toon Review. Just request to join and agree to the terms. And that'll come through to myself or one of the mods, and we'll bring you into the group. We're on Instagram and, of course, across X as well, all of us on there. So have a look. And, of course, thank you very much for watching. Give it the thumbs up. Please do subscribe if you're new to the channel. And please, please, please keep voting in the Football Content Awards. I can't stress that enough. We need your votes more than ever. Click on the link. Go and down to Best Podcast. Click on Premier League. That'll give you a drop-down box. You'll see the Toon Review. Click on that, and that's your vote done and dusted. You click on it, go down, and then vote now, and then that's it. All done. So thank you very much for your super chats, etc. tonight. Thank you, mods. Thank you, Alex. And a big thank you to you guys. It's been a great discussion again. As usual, these shows normally are. We'll not all agree on what we should do, or maybe what's been changed behind the scenes. But hey, it's Newcastle United, and it will never change. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. live, and that is the Manchester City preview. Dear God. So we'll take a look at Manchester City, and we'll also take a look at what Eddie Howe might line up as on Saturday. I really, really don't like doing this tomorrow night, Alex, because I haven't got a Scooby-Doo.
We'll be fine.
Yeah, hopefully Tonali will be back. That's the one thing.
It's just like Newcastle to go and beat Man City in this situation.
Yeah, well, it's Newcastle United all over, isn't it? But we will see. We'll have a look, and hopefully you'll join us for that. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night, folks. Good night.
Away the lads and lasses.
Come back and check out the